This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, I want to start by speaking about a ha'ara on the laning that we do on Chanukah. And if we look carefully at the laning, we'll notice something very interesting about the laning of Chanukah that you don't find anywhere else. And that is, let's say on the third day of Chanukah, how do we lane? We lane by Yom HaShlishi. We break it up into two. The Kohen lanes the first half, the Levi lanes the second half, and the Yisrael lanes by Yom HaRavi. On the fourth day, you break up Yom HaRavi into two, and then you lane the fifth day. That's what Ashkenazim do. And why in the world are we laning about the fifth day of Chanukah on the fourth day of Chanukah? Why should we lane about the sixth day of Chanukah on the fifth day of Chanukah? It's not. So, but it's not on the fourth day of Chanukah. It's the fourth day. It's not the fifth day. Why would we lane about the fifth day? Why would we lane about tomorrow, today? So you say, what's the problem? We always do that. That's what we do on Sukkot. On Sukkot, on Chol HaMoed, we lane by Yom HaShlishi, Yom HaRavi, Yom HaRavi, Yom HaChamishi. Yeah, but that's very good on Sukkot. There's Sveika D'Yoma.
There's no Sveika D'Yoma.
But on Chanukah, there's no Sveika D'Yoma. You know how I know there's no Sveika D'Yoma? Because there are only 8 days of Chanukah in Eretz Yisrael and in Chutz La'aretz. There is no community in Chutz La'aretz that celebrates 9 days of Chanukah. Why not? Says the Avudraham. Because on a Yom Tif that's Midrabanan, there is no idea of Sveika D'Yoma. There's no Sveika D'Yoma on a Yom Tif which is Midrabanan. So if there's no concept of Sveika D'Yoma, we know today's the fourth day of Chanukah, the fifth day of Chanukah, the sixth day of Chanukah. Why would we lane about a diff tomorrow today? So I found something very interesting in the Shal Sechuvas Arugas HaBoisem. The first thing I want to point out is the Mechaber, Maran Bet Yosef, says we're wrong. You're not allowed to lane about tomorrow, today. Minhag of the Sfardim is on the third day of Chanukah. They break up Yom HaShlishi into two. They repeat it again in the third Aliyah. The fourth day, they break up the fourth Aliyah into two, and they repeat it again. And that is the opinion of the Mechaber. If you look at number 4, the Shulchan Aruch writes, Siman Tafresh Pei Daled, B'yom Sheni, on the second day of Chanukah, Korei Kohen, B'yom HaSheni, Ad Parechad Ben Bakar. On the second day of Chanukah, the Kohen lanes by Yom HaSheni, he breaks it up into two. V'Levi Ad by Yom HaShlishi, V'Yisrael Chayzer V'Korei by Yom HaSheni V'Adarach Sa B'chol Yom. See, Shulchan Aruch says very clearly that what we're doing is not correct. Shulchan Aruch writes that how do you break up the 3 aliyos? You break up Yom HaSheni into 2, and then Yisrael repeats it. Says Rama, Hagav Yeshayimrim, She Yisrael Korei B'Yom Shala Achrav. Some say that Yisrael reads the next day, Dahainu B'Yom HaGimel, V'chein B'chol Yom, V'chein Noyagin. Says Rama, the minhag is, on the third day, you read the third and the fourth. The fourth, and the fifth. My hi, what's pshat in this? Doesn't make sense. So I saw something very interesting in the Shal Sechuvas Arugas HaBoisem. The Arugas HaBoisem was Rav Moshe Greenwald. Right? He was the Rav in Chust. And Rav Moshe Greenwald was born in 1853, passed away in 1911. Very interesting. He learned in Yeshiva the Ksav Sofer, and he had a very good chavrusa in Pressburg. Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. He learned the chavrusa with Rabbi Yosef Chaim Sonnenfeld. And after the Maram Shik passed away, he became the Rav in Chust. Says the Arugas HaBoisem, why is Chanukah called Chanukah? So everybody knows the Rambam, Chanu b'Chafhei. They rested on the 25th day of Kislev. That's what the Rambam says. However, says Arugas HaBoisem, there are Rishonim that disagree with the Rambam about this. Many Rishonim say, not many, a Rishon says that they did not rest on the 25th. They rested on the 24th. So it should be called Chanukah. Doesn't sound as good. No, that's not why. Different reason. Why is it called Chanukah? Whatever. Like the Avudraham says, Chesneiros halacha kabeis Hillel, or Chanukah's hamizbeach, but not Chanu b'chafei, because they didn't rest on the 25th day of Kislev. They rested on the 24th day of Kislev. The Rambam says they rested on the 25th. The Arugas HaBoisem quotes the Ran that they rested on the 24th. Now, I looked in the Ran doesn't say this. But the Meiri says this. The Meiri says they rested on the 24th day of Kislev. Comes out, says Arugas HaBoisem. The Shulchan Aruch, the Mechaber, always goes with whose Shita? The Rambam. Except, by the way, by the Halach of Ner Chanukah. He always goes with the Rambam. The Rambam says they rested on the 25th day of Kislev. So that means the first day of Chanukah was the first day of the miracle of the Neiros, and the first day of the miracle of the war. But according to the Meiri, the first day of Chanukah is the first day of the miracle of the Neiros, and the second day of the miracle of the war. The second day of Chanukah is the second day of the miracle of the Neiros, and the third day of the miracle of the war, because they didn't win the war on the 25th, according to the Meiri, they won the war on the 24th. So each day of Chanukah has two countings. In one way it's the first day, and in another way it's the second day. The second day, in one way it's the second day, in another way it's the third day. Says the Arugas HaBoisim, the Machloikis, the Mechaber, and the Ramah, is dependent on the Machloikis, the Rambam, and the Meiri. When did they win the war? Was it the 25th or the 24th? Let's see this inside in number 5. We won't get a chance to see everything, but let's look at number 5. V'ayin barachayim simatafresh peidalid b'seder kriyas haTorah b'Chanukah. Look in Shulchan Aruch. Dilahatur v'Shulchan Aruch karei kayin b'yom hasheni v'hayisrael chayzer v'karei b'yom hasheni. Right? The Shita of the Mechaber is the Yisra, the Kayin reads Vayom Hasheni, the Levi reads Vayom Hasheni, and the Yisra repeats. The Al Derech Zeh B'chol Yom. The Harama Kasav, the Rama writes, the Yisrael Karei B'yom Shel Achrav. The Yisrael reads the next day. The Hainu B'yom HaGimel, which is the third day. The Yishleimer Detali B'plukta Deharan V'Harambam. Says Arugas HaBoisim, this is dependent on the Machlokes, the Ran and the Rambam. I believe this has to be a printing mistake. It's not the Ran. The Ran.
Where's the Meiri?
The Meiri says it's on Chaft.
It said the Ran.
Yeah, so he can't mean the Ran. The Ran says exactly like the Rambam that they rested when? On the 25th. So l'chayr he means Meiri. It's dependent on the Machlokes, the Meiri and the Rambam. Ichanu b'chaf dalid, Eichanu b'chaf hey, min b'chamas hayivanu. Dilaman da'amar shechanu b'chaf dalid, according to the opinion that they rested on the 24th. Im came yom sheni de Chanukah, havalei yom shlishi l'nitzachan ha'machama. The second day of Chanukah is the third day from when they won the war. So what do we do? Mutav sheyikor Yisrael yom shlishi. It is appropriate that at least for the third Aliyah we lay in the third day. Why? But it's not the third day of Chanukah, it's the second day of Chanukah. At least so you'll have some remembrance, it's the third day from when the war was won. Shi'ak upanim, k'tzas, zichrain, l'neis, nitzachin ha'machama. Ma'she'ein kein laharambam. But according to the Rambam, d'loichanu min nitzachin ha'machama ad chafhei, that they didn't rest from the war until the 25th day of Kislev. So then the second day of Chanukah is the second day for everything. For the miracle of the oil, for the winning of the war. So you could go home today, you could go to Mincha Marav tonight, you could ask everyone in the shul, why on the 5th day of Chanukah or the 4th day of Chanukah, why are we reading about tomorrow? This is a Arugas HaBoisim that is really not so well known. And it's really a minhag that if you think about, doesn't have a real good explanation without this.
This would be only good for the second day. What about the 5th and the 7th?
The 5th day
is not Yom Nitzachon.
Is the 5th day of Chanukah and the 6th day from the winning of the war. In other words, every day of Chanukah has in it two nisim that we're commemorating. The miracle of the oil, which is on that day, and the miracle of the Nitzachon HaMachama, which really starts from the day before.
But what did they do before the Rambam?
What did they do before the Rambam? With what?
Before the Rambam. How did they win before?
Before the Arugas HaBoisim.
Before the Rambam made the ruling. Before Arugas HaBoisim.
Oh, everybody knew that.
They already knew it by heart.
What? It's like, how did anyone make potato kugel without recipes, you know? The Arugas HaBoisim is telling you what the explanation for the minhag is.
Had to come from somewhere. Where did it come from?
What, the Shita Harama?
That they rained the next day. Arugas HaBoisim is giving a reason.
Yeah, so this was the reason. This is the reason.
How long was the Meiri living?
The Meiri Shita was a well-known Shita. Meiri is one of the Rishonim. This was one of the...
Yes. How Rishonim is?
Not before the Rambam.
Right after that.
Yeah. He's one of the early Rishonim. Okay. So this is one issue I wanted to discuss, a ha'ara on the Kriyas HaTorah of Chanukah. Okay.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.